It's kind of like serial killers, usually male. Rarely do we find a female who does that stuff. This is a breakdown of the location. If you can see on this side, the 45.6 is commerce, so that's businesses open to pedestrian traffic, 27.5. Businesses closed to pedestrian traffic is 14, and then malls 3.8%. The next one's education, so those are your schools, your universities, colleges, government's 10%, open spaces 9, residences 4, churches 3.8, healthcare facilities are 2.5. So where do you think, from y'all's organization, where do you think you might fall in? Any ideas? Because I kind of struggle categorizing.
Business, kind of, but not really.
Because y'all have some, you have some pedestrian walk-up, right? Some,
So,
not a lot. But your doors are open. You do get crazy folks who just stroll in,
Yeah,
right?
oh yeah.
every day.
Okay. So,
We invite them, we give them, we have a crisis number they can call.
okay. Yeah, you're gonna need to leave and call this number. Preferably call from the
Over there.
HEB plus down the road.
It will.
Yeah. So,
Are those numbers for Round Rock or for,
no, this is nationwide.
okay.
So when we talk about an active killer, the terminology used to be active shooter. And then there were some incidents that occurred where, I don't know if you remember, I think it was earlier this year, maybe last year, there was the kid who went to school down in Cypress, which is outside of Houston, brought two knives to school, started cutting people, just running through the hall, stabbing and cutting. So how do you handle that situation? Well, we basically respond the same way. So what we did was we started changing the terminology and started calling it active killer. Because the one thing that is all in common is people are dying and you have to get there quick. So it's an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined or populated area. In most cases, active killers use firearms and there's no pattern or method to the selection of victims. There may be initially a reason why they snap and twist and go after somebody, but in most of the mass casualties, either they targeted that one person and then they continued, or they continued to get to a person, or they just flipped out and then just started targeting people at random. They can be unpredictable and evolve quickly. Typically, the immediate deployment of law enforcement is required to stop or mitigate the harm to others, and because most situations are often over within 10 to 15 minutes before law enforcement arrives on the scene, individuals must be prepared both mentally and physically to deal with these scenarios. Do you know what our average response time is, JoJo? It's pretty quick. I mean, I've had the opportunity to work at two smaller, and when I say smaller, not Austin, not Dallas, not Houston, where sometimes you could call 911 and the response time might be 45 minutes. So in a daytime, we're usually able to respond to an area pretty quick. But these situations evolve so quickly and so rapidly that dialing 911 and waiting for the cavalry to get there to resolve this issue is not the best course of action. And as a result, the city of Houston put out this video. Ooh, may work. This is called Run, Hide, Fight, and it's about 5 minutes, and it gives you some strategies and some tips if you have not seen this. And then we'll kind of go over it.
The front one.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
So this is a production that was done by the city of Houston in conjunction with the Houston Police Department. And so it talks a little bit about those three. Maybe I'll tell you I'm big on mnemonic devices. Tell me, memorize stuff like acronyms and, you know, so they use the run, hide, fight. There's several different versions of this. There's Homeland Security has one that's like evacuate, defend, invade. I don't know. It's just like run, hide, fight is generally what you will see in most places in this area that use this film. So it's just three short things to kind of stick into your mind to give you something to refer back to what we've seen not only in our training as first responders, but in training in general, is that the big thing about training is that when you encounter something that you have not been exposed to or something where you don't have a reference point, it's basically like taking that big Rolodex in your head and it spins and spins and spins, and you're trying to figure out how do you respond to this. And if you don't have something in that Rolodex that's similar, or something that you can kind of key off on, it just continues to spin. And that's where sometimes we get folks that freeze up and they don't know what to do. And so they utilize these three words as kind of that card in your Rolodex. So it spins and then right there, that's what I need to do. And so this is something that you can utilize. You may not, you may think it's complete bunk, but as far as training on the civilian side, it's some of the better stuff that we've seen. Austin did a training at Robbery Investigators in Texas conference that we did back in August, and they utilized this film. First time I'd ever seen it. I was like, man, that's pretty good. You can obviously tell the bad guy's a cop because he wears the sunglasses and he's got the bald head, you know, but you know, the budget that we have generally is not great, so we can't, you know, get Vin Diesel to come star. So, good practices, be aware of your environment, any possible dangers, take notes of the 2 nearest exits in any facility that you visit. This isn't just at work, this is if you go down to the Bass Hall and you see a concert, or you're at Frank Irwin Center, it's always just good to know where your exits are. If you're in an office, stay there, secure the door. If you're in a hallway, get to a room, secure the door. If you're unable to actually exit the building, and as a last resort, attempt to take the killer down. This slide basically hits on, again, you're going to be the leaders in your workplace. Your clients and your customers are going to follow exactly what y'all do. And so it's important to have that EAP in place so that you're confident and you know the direction that you need to head. And like the film said, if people don't want to go, I mean, it sounds a little cold, but you can't make people evacuate. And if they're frozen, then you've got to think about yourself, the way yourself, your coworker, and then everybody else. The way that I would teach people when I was an FTO on the street is, hey, it's you, and then it's your partner, and then it's everybody else. Because you can't do anybody any benefit if you can't get yourself out of that situation, or if you're at risk. So your safety, the person next to you, and then the others. So run, went through this. I can provide you with these later if you want them. I don't do handouts because I've generally learned that as soon as I leave the room, you know, there's the golf clap and then the stuff ends up in the trash can. So if you want a copy of this stuff, we'll get it for you to refer to. The be out of the active killer's view is where we also talked about rally points, and this is where you might want to evaluate a different rally point for a smoke alarm or a structure fire as opposed to something like this. If this is your hiding plan, this is not going to work. I'm going to see at the bottom it says hide and seek if you're doing it wrong. So here's my deal on fight. When God created all of you, He did not create you all to be cops, and that's a great thing because this would be a very boring place. And there's a lot of normal people out there, and what helps us when we leave work and go home is the fact that there are normal people out there who see the sky as still being blue and the grass is still being green and think that there's still a lot of good in the world, which there is. Okay. So understanding that, everybody's got a different mindset. And if you have an interest in doing our job, if you don't kind of already have a little bit of a cynical perspective, then we will give it to you when you start this job, and you will believe that everyone is out to get you and that they all have an angle. And we also train you to have a certain mindset when you respond to emergencies or where you get into a situation to where you have to draw upon some inner strength that you may or may not know that you've had. When it comes to fight, this is where you may have never been in a fight in your entire life. Anything more than, oh yeah, well, your mama. That may have been, you know, the harshest word that you ever told somebody. What you have to do in these situations is, and the way it was explained to me a long time ago from a guy who's very wise, is you have to find something that is personal and something that you are passionate about. And if you can focus on those things, they will allow you to do things that you thought you could never do. And if you've got kids, then for a lot of us, that's it. You get into a situation where you're like, man, I'm not so sure we're going to be coming home after this, but you're like, no, screw that. We are coming home because I got a wife and kids I got to get back to. So yeah, it's you, not me, not today. So sometimes that's a little shift of a mindset for some folks. But what you have to do is you have to work through that now. Because when a situation happens and that Rolodex is rolling in your head and you're trying to figure out what reference point that you have, you can't give up. Okay, that is not an option. If you don't have kids, or you got a little weenie dog, or whatever it is that you know are passionate about, because that's your kid, just because you're just not there yet. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Your nice car, your motorcycle, your boat. You have to pick something, and it has to be something that's personal to you, because whatever it is that motivates me doesn't mean anything to you. Because one, you don't know who I am. Two, you may not like pepperoni pizza. Just whatever. You have to pick that because it's personal, and it has to be something that you're passionate about. And then that's what you draw upon when a situation occurs, and then you're going to be called upon to do something that is completely outside of your personality, something that you didn't think that you would ever have to do with your life. So whatever it is, you use this to help you do that. So when calling 911, what we need, if possible, because you've all heard the bad 911 calls, is the location of wherever this incident is. The number of people that are involved. Is it 1, 2, 3 people? And the reason this is important is that until recently, fire and EMS, if we had a large situation, would not come into what was considered to be a hot zone. And that is, if we still have a suspect that's up and doing bad things, they will not come in. Now, we've changed our training, and we're one of the few agencies in Central Texas, I can't speak about the rest of the country, where we have started training on actually pairing up with emergency medical personnel and bringing them into a situation that's a warm zone, because that has been, for fire and EMS, that is not their deal. They're not equipped for that. They're not armed. They just, that is not their deal. And there has been a lot of this since Columbine, as far as there is this golden hour after the incident begins to take place, we have to introduce medical care. And if we can do that, statistically, the survivability factor is a lot higher. But we got to get everybody on the same page. So if you call us and say, they're everywhere, there's 1,500 of them, we're not, I tell you right now, we're not getting medical in there anytime soon. But if you can tell me there's one person, or there are 2 people, and then we get there, and then we put both of them down, or we get them pinned down, and we can start introducing medical and fire to start getting first aid. Descriptions, extremely important. Number and types of weapons. You don't have to be a gun person. If you can tell me it was small and you held it with one hand, as opposed to it was long and big, that works. And did it go pop, 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 or did it go because that's really bad.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but that's how, because the way that we're going to roll out of our cars may be a little different if it's, well, it was a knife. Okay, that's great. That's what we need to know. And it also is helpful to know how many victims that we may have on scene. When people start rolling up, you may see 1, you may see 3, you may see 10. It just kind of depends. It's the SWAT team training next door, and the guy was blind and he rolled into the wrong building, and all of a sudden we've got people there. They may look like this. They may look like this. but it may be a uniform. So you just need to be prepared to know that you're gonna have people that are gonna be coming through that door that are gonna look like all kinds of different things. And it could be one of our undercover narcotics guys that looks scary as hell, but he's got a vest on and says police, and it's okay. All right, so, because everybody has that thing in their mind, it's like, man, they're all gonna come in wearing blue. No, we won't all, because we're dropping everything and we're coming right in. So, maybe armed with rifle, shotguns, pistols, pepper spray, tear gas, flashbangs. There's gonna be a lot of shouting, there's gonna be some pushing people to the ground, because as it said in the video, first thing that we have to do is we have to get the situation under control, which means we've gotta find the bad guy, shoot him in the face, and then put him down, and then get help to everybody else. So, the way to react when we show up is remain calm, follow instructions, don't hold anything. I can't emphasize that enough. Like cell phones and grabbing onto people as they're rolling by, try not to do that. Keep your hands visible at all times. Try to avoid screaming and yelling. Don't stop and ask for directions. It sounds a little commonsensical, but it happens. We may be bringing in emergency medical just as quickly as we can. That's going to be Williamson County. And if something does happen and you're able to move, and she's kind of got a busted leg, then we're probably going to be like, hey, you two ladies, move her now, because she may not be able to move on her own, but we got other things that we're dealing with. So we're going to task you with those responsibilities. And once you've reached a safe place or a location, you're going to stay there until we finish up what we're doing. Everybody's going to be interviewed, going to get statements. We got to identify folks. We need to make a head count. Who are we still missing? There may be a possibility that because of the way the situation unfolded, that there's this rally point that everybody's supposed to get to, and like 90% of the people got there, and the other 10% are over at KFC doing something, and we need to figure out what are they doing? So we can't just start cutting people loose. So, here's a feedback portion. Okay, this is you guys. Where the red dot is, this is where we are today. I don't know if you can see that because of the map. So, where do you think, if we were to put together a rally point, let's say for a smoke-a-lot or a structure fire? So
We
everybody
just
talk
go
at
up to
once.
the starry sign for that.
What about behind those little barns behind the building?
That's where the fence.
They said not to go to the fence.
So there is, and this is something to talk about. There's a fence area, like right
All
here.
the way around.
I'm not saying you can't do it, just saying that you could get stuck there and it could be for a while. Now, if it looks like, fire carries some bolt cutters, so if it looks like it's gonna be a while and y'all are safe, somebody's gonna go there and cut that fence and then you're gonna be able to leave. But, so that's a thought. Where would be some other places?
Maybe in front of the hair school next door?
Oh, yeah.
The parking lot to the left? Is that the beauty school?
The thing
So
you
is
have to
that-
cross
is that this building
79.
here that
Yeah.
is-
That's the only thing about going across the street is you have to cross the street.
Yeah.
So there is and this is a real measure word, it's a crap ton. There's a crap ton of traffic that comes up and down this road. And you only realize that when we have an accident here and then it backs up and then nobody knows how to get anywhere because they only know one way to get to work and one way to get home. And then it backs up. So just something to think about. Maze is pretty busy, 79's even worse. So if you were over
Is
here,
that the old HEB?
it's on the same side of Maze. It's a large parking lot. Not a bad idea. You get hungry, there's that Chinese food buffet.
Nice.
It looks like
Anybody
it's
live
gonna be
there
all-
yet? Is it any good?
So,
Is it bad?
personal opinion, personally, I probably would do it. That's not the opinion of the Round Rock Police Department. So basically what it boils down to is that there are numerous different situations that can come up while you're at work. This is not a guarantee that it will address all of them, but if you have an emergency action plan in place, it's a reference point. the thing that is the most important here is your safety. So you cannot compromise your personal safety for something that is going on at work as far as somebody twisting off in the lobby or a disturbance. One of the questions that we normally get is, well, is that a 911 or is that a, like a non-emergency call? I will tell you that if you need help right now to stabilize the situation, even if it's a verbal altercation, but it looks like it's about to get physical, that's a 911 call. Just like if you got somebody breaking into a car, that's a 911. Because if you call the non-emergency number, they're going to say, police department, can you hold? No, I can't hold. Well, that's why you call 911. So if it's an issue where, let's say you're going to get a kid over in safe, and we kind of talked about this already, you know that it's coming, it's a tension situation, parents may be showing up, or you're going to have to be there late, it may be about an hour or so, then yeah, that's absolutely a non-emergency call. But if you're at work, or you're dealing with the kid, and then dad shows up and he's twisting off, then yeah, that's 911. You are not going to impose on anybody if you accidentally call 911 and it's like, well, that's a non-emergency. It's okay. We're not going to hit you on the hand with the ruler until you don't ever do that again. We'll deal with it and we'll roll on. But the number one thing is safety, and you cannot compromise that. So, and don't think that you're inconveniencing us. People think that all the time. They'll call, well, we just didn't really want to bother you guys, but we get paid to get bothered. Okay, that's what we do. I mean, if I didn't want to get bothered, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, I'd be a firefighter. Okay, no. See, I made sure there were no attorneys here. No, but I mean, if we didn't want to be bothered, we would be doing something else. There are times when I was on patrol, same thing, rolling around, looking for stuff to do. I can't find it on the street. I'm answering my calls. I'm making traffic stops. I want to get into something. I can't find it. Call. We will go check that out. It's not a problem. But the biggest thing is, and Mandy will tell you this is one of my, right there. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So.
Yeah, I'll jump in there real quick.
Oh, okay.
So we have about 10 minutes. I'm just going to wrap it up at the very end before we open up to questions. But I'm going to touch on a few things that Chancellor said. But can y'all write down, since everybody has their pens and y'all are being so studious, The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. Has anybody read that? It's my girl Oprah. He was on the Oprah show, and I love Oprah, and so I happened to see it. But The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. If y'all are readers, even if you're not, I would encourage you to read that. So Gift of Fear by Gavin, Gavin DeBecker. And it reads like a thriller. So what it does is it tries to find patterns in stories of violence and abuse. And then what it does is it highlights the inherent predictability of violence. That's what you'll see on the cover when you read it. So basically, I don't want to tell you the book, but I'll give you a little quick snapshot of the book. It tells of a story of a lady who comes home, and it basically tells you to trust your gut instincts, because we all have that gut instinct where our stomach gets tight and the hair on the back of our neck stands up. We know something's not right, but sometimes we do it anyways, and that's when we get into problems. And so it talks about this lady that lived in an apartment complex, and she always parked in the same spot around the same people. And that night she came home and somebody else was parked there, and the parking lights were on or something like that. And then it's just like, that's not right. I've never seen that before. And then she walks through the gate, and the gate's left open. Well, that gate's never open. It's always shut. She's like, something's just not right. But okay. She goes to the gate, and then she sees a man. Y'all live in your houses or your apartments wherever you live. You know that you see the same people. You know when something's out of place, probably. So she sees the man. She's like, I've never seen that guy before. And something felt creepy about him. But she ignores it. She goes to gets her groceries, carries her to the steps. She sees a guy again by her apartment, and she's like, something's not right. Her groceries end up falling. I think a can falls or something like that. Surprise, he's there. He's like, hey, let me help you pick these up. And she's like, no, I got it. What does he do? He insists. Well, rather than being rude, she's like, well, I'm okay, you can help me. Even though her gut and her hair standing up on the back of her neck, she knows something's not right. long story short, you'll read, and she ends up getting sexually assaulted. He ends up helping her to her apartment to carry groceries in. And so it basically has stories